Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode from Pro Engineering. In this episode, we are finally going to talk about the Panda Cyclone. I know that there have been a number of people that have asked me to cover this car. In fact, since my 50th episode, I would say this is one of my highest requested vehicles by far to actually cover for the Buyer's Guide series. So, without further ado, let's get started. The Panda Cyclone was sold in two versions. We have the Panda Cyclone that we see here. We also have the Mugen Manx. Now, I'll talk about that in a minute, but basically they were identical. They're the exact same Lexan body, as well as most of the chassis, at least to my knowledge. The Panda Cyclone came hopped up, basically. That's kind of the easiest way to say it. So you can see here that I've got these UG Nerf bars, the UG sway bar, the UG front shocks, rear shocks. You're like, oh, well, you've upgraded this Cyclone. Actually, I have not. This Cyclone is bone stock. The body is unique to the Manx as well as the Cyclone. It is a very handsome looking body. In fact, I always tell people when they're looking for bodies for the Hornet or for the Grasshopper, I say, go get the Manx because it does not have a wing that will be destroyed in a matter of minutes. This is a lot more robust than the Hornet body is, and as well as the Grasshopper body, because it's not made of ABS, it's actually a Lexan. This is a Team Blue Groove body. These are available on eBay. The quality is fantastic. This Lexan is super thick, and the finish of this thing is beautiful. This is all painted by me. All the stripes that you see here are hand masked and then painted with Tamiya polycarbonate paint. And I kind of went for a box art-ish look. There are no decals currently available for this, so you can probably see just a mix and match of random Tamiya decals, although I have been in talks with MCI Racing on some Cyclone decals. So the body is just a small part of what makes the Cyclone or the Manx a Manx. The chassis is a big part of it here. Although upon first glance you might say, well, no, it's not like a Hornet. It actually is a Hornet. You are both dead on correct and completely wrong, and I'll explain this. The giveaway, of course, is the front suspension. We do have a genuine double wishbone front suspension. Its design is a bit peculiar. The upper link comes very, very close to the shock. In fact, as you apply a load to it, it does tend to rub the UG shock a bit, but you can see it is using the standard Grasshopper body post, so that's, you have to kind of make do. What's unfortunate about these arms is that the roll pin over here is actually a 2mm rod. It's very, very thin, and it makes these arms quite fragile. The thickness of this arm is just about 4mm. And in fact, this one here is not in bad shape. The chrome is coming off, and that's kind of another thing. These all came chromed. The chrome finish isn't great. It's not horrible. This car here was hardly used, but yet the chrome seems to be kind of rubbing off in certain areas here. Doesn't have quite a cohesive look, in my opinion, but it's still a double wishbone front suspension. And this is what inspired me to make my double wishbone front suspension. Front shocks are UG units. These were readily available at the time, so a lot of upgraded Hornets and Grasshoppers and original Pajeros will have these shock absorbers. However, this car did come with them stock. You'll also notice the UG Nerf bars. Again, this came that way. And the UG sway bar. A number of companies made these sway bars. However, the Panda Cyclone came with it from the box. Another idea that I've pilfered was this little retaining clip here, which helps to prevent the transmission from thrusting up and down, kind of how they usually do, and locks it in place, although you get most of your articulation, not all of it, but you get most of it. So it was a very, very good attempt to leverage this little Grasshopper little clip here for the Panda Cyclone. Rear shocks are again UG. Now there's one major difference here between the Cyclone and all of its other clones, including the Manx. The transmission on the Cyclone, from what I can tell, is completely unique to the Cyclone. I've never seen another Hornet or Grasshopper or Lynx or there's a couple other ones out there that had anything like this. Now, if you know more information about this transmission, please leave it in the description. I would love to know more. But basically, as you can see here, the transmission is much thinner than a Hornet or a Grasshopper or a Rockbuster or a Roadrunner or on and on and on and on. From what I can tell, the Mugen Manx had the Hornet gearbox. There's very little documentation on any of these cars, and the Manx and the Cyclone seem to get blended into each other, so it's hard to tell, but it seems that the Cyclones I see have this gearbox. The cars listed as a Manx have the Grasshopper gearbox. So the thing is, it's also likely that this transmission was damaged on those Manxes and Manx. What's plural for Manx? I don't know. Possible those transmissions were damaged and they replaced it with a Hornet, which was very readily available. Another bit of interesting folklore here on the Cyclone and the Manx are these wheels. Now the box art of the Cyclone shows these wheels. These are effectively gold variations of the standard Tamiya wheels. I don't know who made these, but it definitely was not Panda. Now, from what I can tell, Panda was a subsidiary, or at least a rebranding of Vericom. And Vericom seemed to have been made by Thunder Tiger. I don't quite follow the lineage of that. Again, if somebody has the ability to point me in the correct direction for some additional information, that'd be wonderful. But I've been searching for this for quite some time and unfortunately have not been able to come across a very solid family tree. Nevertheless, the box art of the Cyclone shows these wheels. However, most of the Cyclones I see show these wheels. They're both gold. These are a little bit more gold, but they're both a basic gold color. I have seen a couple of Cyclones that do have these wheels, but I'm not quite sure which one got what. It seems that these cars were kind of, you know, mix and match of whatever was available by whatever manufacturer. So sometimes you'd get these gold wheels in the mail, and sometimes you'd get these gold wheels in the mail. So Panda or Vericom or Thunder Tiger just threw them in a box and sent them out the door. The Manx seems to have the same discrepancies. This bumper, again, is unique to the Panda Cyclone and the Manx in orange. The bumper is flat out a Rockbuster / Roadrunner holdover. Those were usually found in orange. However, I have seen this bumper in black. In fact, my Roadrunner has a black bumper that came new old stock with a Panda Cyclone badging on it. So it seems that they did come in a few variants, usually black or orange for the Cyclones, but I have seen black ones on Roadrunner, so, you know, who knows? These are old cars, maybe they've been swapped out. That is basically what we're looking at for a Cyclone and a Manx. However, there is something else. Tires. Usually a Manx will come with these UG tires. These are the TR8412s. They're a neat tire. I think they're quite good looking. Traction, I don't know. I may have only driven this thing around town on pavement, so I don't really know how good they are. But these are readily available. You can usually find them on eBay as new old stock. For the front tires, I do have a new set, but this old set I have is on my daughter's Hornet here, so you can see once again they are also UGs. These are TF 8411s. So this is what you would normally find in the front of a Cyclone and in the rear of a Cyclone. And usually that is also what you would find in a Manx. Now we've talked about the obvious differences, but that is not it. You'll also notice that you have a unique speed control. This is usually what you would find in a Manx, but I don't know if there's actually a dedicated actual speed control that you'd find in these cars. Again, these are just off-the-shelf units, whatever the distributor could throw into a box at any given time. And yes, although most of my cars do have these dreadful MSCs for display, every car I own runs an ESC. So this car has a period correct T4 ESC and a broken Aristocrat servo just hanging out over there, which is better than in one of my parts drawers. The motor does seem to be a standard black and bell Mabuchi. However, the wires that came with it are very different than the yellow and green Tamiyas. These are a red and a white wire. I'm pretty sure that this resistor cover is incorrect. However, I can't be entirely certain. This car, in fact, all of my Cyclones were missing it. This was the only one that had the mechanical speed control. There are some other upgrades here that don't belong here. For example, this support from June Falk, as well as these anodized aluminum servo standoffs. The car also came with these very nice tie rods. I am not entirely certain if they all came with these or somebody else put them on. It appeared that a number of the ones I've seen have something similar. The earlier ones that I had purchased didn't have them at all, so I unfortunately can't give you that much information about these guys. But I suspect that judging by the rest of the upgrades on this car, they all had something like that or that one exactly. Let's dive into some of the more fundamental differences. Although we do see a Hornet chassis here, I assure you, this is absolutely not a Hornet chassis. First things first, this pad is completely clear. On the Hornet, it would say Tamiya. On very, very early Grasshoppers, it would actually say the Tamiya Stars and Grasshopper on here. If I kind of get the light right, you can see that this is a very, very highly textured surface. I don't know why they decided to do that, but this surface does have a texture. It actually gives it a very, very nice appearance. In fact, a little more upscale, unlike the Grasshopper, which definitely looks like an entry-level car, but the Roadrunner or the Rockbuster, which have just miserable, miserable, trashy plastics with a lot of flash and that are really flexible. This chassis is rock hard. And you might think, oh, that's great, but I assure you, it is a massive downfall, and we'll get to that in a moment. Other differences would be this front support here for the front suspension. This one, it looks to be pulled directly from a Rockbuster or a Roadrunner. So it has these little kind of circular patterns over here. The transmission does have a kind of a glossy finish too, just like the Hornet would have. So I don't know if this is just the chassis that they did this to, but it seems that other parts do not have this. Here's the deal. This is not a new old stock car. This car came in very good shape. I've owned about 4 or 5 of these cars, and all of them came with the pieces that you see here. That transmission, this center support, the arms, and even the standard Hornet battery doors. Does that mean that's accurate? Well, that just means that whoever owned them either left them alone or all lost the battery doors. I mean, that's also very likely. So anybody that owns an NOS Cyclone, I would love to hear a little more about your car. I mentioned a moment ago that this chassis is very, very rigid and very hard. That is bad because of the 4 Cyclones I've owned, this was the best chassis. And it looks quite nice. I mean, you can see here, it looks almost brand new. Unfortunately, this nose piece right here was completely shattered on this car. This is grafted on from a standard Hornet. I think I did a reasonable job of putting that back into place there. On top of that, this big chunk was broken off of this chassis, so I glued it back into place. It seems that although this chassis is very rigid, the rigidity will result in an incredible brittle nature of this chassis. So should you come across a Cyclone with its original chassis, I very much recommend do not drive that car very hard because these chassis are insanely delicate. A couple of interesting notes is that the antenna is supposed to come out of the standard Hornet antenna hole here. That puts the antenna coming out of the window area, which is normally fine. You just drill a hole. Unfortunately, this window is very vertical. So you'd have to make a very, very long slot to get that through the body, and I wasn't about to do that. So I printed these little outriggers here to reposition the antenna off of the chassis so that now it clears the body altogether and I can still have a nice safe antenna mounting area. So I printed 2, and usually I run just 2 antennas there just for cosmetic sake. You probably want to know how this car runs, and well, I'm going to take it for a spin here. So let's pause for a minute and take a look at this car running. slow jump.
That's it.
I can't take it head on, unfortunately.
No, you come more this way if you want.
Yeah, I don't want the place to.
I mean, it's slow motion, so you could say it's, you know, slowed down like 5,000. We're actually going 85 miles an hour. Want to do one more at least?
I hope you enjoyed that running. I've actually never done what you see to this car ever before. Usually this car just kind of goes for some nice walks up and down the trail by my house, and that's about it. I don't think I've ever gone full throttle on this car. I did unfortunately discover that after that drive, that was a few minutes of roughly a 45-minute walk at lunch, I did discover that the motor was burning hot. So I suspect that this motor is simply failing internally due to age. It seems to be running okay, but the car seemed a lot slower than the Hornet, so I don't know. It just seems like it's unhappy. I did want to mention one more thing I totally forgot. The pinion for these is also unique. It is not a standard Hornet pinion. It sticks out significantly further. The question, of course, is, should you get one? If you're like me and love everything Hornet, this would basically be the holy grail of Hornets. It is not only a clone, kind of like the Rockbuster or the Roadrunner, but unlike those two monumental piles of trash, this car here is actually not a complete lump of garbage. This is an excellent car and probably a wonderful car to add to your collection if you are into beautiful display shelf queens. Now you might be wondering, hang on a second, you just drove this car and you specifically say that you don't own any shelf queens, and you are completely correct. I do not own any shelf queens and I love driving my cars. However, it pains me every single time I drive this car. Here's one of the reasons. Check out in the back, this is one of the transmission case screws that holds the whole thing together. It is actually by far the lowest point on the entire car. It hangs off the bottom of the transmission by about 5 millimeters. So when I'm driving this car, I'm just perpetually terrified that I'm going to grind this thing into the ground. On top of that, every time I jumped this car for you people, I was terrified I was going to get this car back and the front end would be split. It is not a particularly relaxing car to drive because you're constantly worried that the incredibly rare chassis is going to break. You're going to launch the thing and land it and strip a gear in the transmission, which you can't find anymore. Or you might split one of the axle tubes, or you might bend one of these UG front shocks. A lot of people, search for these UG front shocks constantly, and as beautiful, absolutely beautiful as they are trash. I always tell people, If you want to put these shocks on your car, they must be for display only. These shocks are completely worthless. Beautiful? You betcha. Functional? No, they're just not functional. Now you might be saying, well, look man, I was waiting for this video because I was dying to get a Cyclone and now you tell me not to get one. Well, don't make me burst your bubble here. I'm saying don't get a genuine Cyclone. The Manx, I wish I could know more about that entire car. I know most of it's the same. I don't know about the chassis or the gearbox for certain, but what I will tell you is this. This car is just, again, a compilation of upgrades and really, really neat little touches like the front suspension and the body, but it has really bad fundamental flaws. If you want a Cyclone, do this. Get yourself a Hornet. Buy one of these Team Blue Groove bodies. Pick up some of these Nerf bars used, or find a parts car that has these Nerf bars already on it and just go from there. This sway bar, please never install this sway bar on anything at all, ever, that you even potentially have any kind of fondness to, because this sway bar is pointless, useless junk. Looks awesome on here, but it's junk. So when you build your Cyclone, no, don't do this to yourself. These shocks, gorgeous, but they're weak. Do not get these UG shocks. Again, unless you want to just look at the car like this. But if you're going to jump the thing, I highly recommend you do not use these rear shocks. Just upgrade the Hornet shocks. For the front suspension, do not use this suspension. It is not strong. It has barely any suspension travel. This thing has about 8 millimeters of travel. There's not much to it at all. I hate the product place here, people, but if you want double wishbone suspension, get my double wishbone suspension. Don't use something that's going to cost significantly more. Because remember, if you can find the suspension, which you can't, then you have to buy the shocks, which you can't. And when you do finally come across these things, you're going to spend 60, 70 bucks on the suspension arms. You're going to spend another 40, $50 on the shocks. You're going to be at 120 bucks with just stuff that's going to break the minute you look at it. And Cyclones sell for quite a bit of money. You're looking at about $120 to $130 for junk if it's missing stuff and it's broken. For something like this, it's going to go in the $300 to $400 range. So it's way too expensive to buy this stuff and the car if you want to run it. Don't do that. If you want a Cyclone, build yourself one that's even better. It can look like it. I mean, you know, this is a pretty simple paint job to do. And this basically what makes a Cyclone is the body. Get yourself a better front suspension, better rear shocks, better rear shock mounting, better tires. Actually, these tires, I think, or I should say rims, I think these rims look awesome. You know, these come up every now and then on eBay. I don't know who made these, if it's Parma or if it's UG. If you know that, please don't hold back. Let us know who makes these. So I apologize. I know that you've all been looking forward to this video, and I hope I didn't, you know, burst your bubble telling you not to buy a Cyclone. It's a wonderful car. I love this thing, but you got to be careful with it. They're really fragile. If you want one, build yourself a better one for a fraction of the price. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. I know I really enjoyed driving the car around today. I have to thank one of my colleagues. I can't really use his screen name because then this would no longer be a family-friendly channel. Yeah, he's one of those guys. But he was excellent at doing all the recording, so I have to thank him. I hope this car was worth the wait. Please subscribe. I've got lots more stuff coming up. And, man, we are approaching the 100th episode. If you have any idea what to do with the big 100, let me know, because honestly, I have no idea. I have no clue what to do for the big 100. And we're almost at 2,000 subscribers. Once again, I have no idea what to do. If you do like this content, please hit the little like button and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram as well as Facebook. And before you take off, please check out the band Blue Pinto. They're the ones that allow me to use their songs in my videos, and the link to their Facebook page is in the description, as well as in the end credits. And you can also find, if you have one of these cars, or at least a car with these bodies, you can find these antenna mounts on Shapeways. There is a link in the description. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.